You know, nobody wanted smaller government when the towers fell. Nobody wanted less police at Sandy Hook. It's amazing how we want government, even the people who, you know, want nothing to do with government. It's amazing how all of a sudden there are times when only government will do. So that was the second reason. And the third reason is the basic theme of the book, that it's not political partisanship that's eating us alive. That's a factor. That's a factor. The ideological gaps, the boundaries, the partisanship is hurting our progress in Washington and in state capitals throughout the country. But it's not just that that's eating us alive. It's the fact that no one has any courage. Everyone is interested in preserving their job. You know, JFK wrote, or actually more to the point, Ted Sorensen wrote a book called Profiles in Courage. I don't know how many of you read it, but it was a great book. It delineated stories about people in public life who risked and in most cases lost their job because of things that they did. But they did it for the right reasons. And there were a few profiles in courage around. And it is killing us. It is eating us alive. I'm going to use two examples, and then we'll open it up for questions. Take the two seminal, one seminal issue and one issue that's right current smack on the front pages. The debt. No one on either side has had the courage to do anything close to resolving the debt. We did some social service cuts, a tiny little bit of cutting from the military budget, and we raised taxes this last time, and we probably took care of about 40% of our debt problem. But the other 60% we're going nowhere on, and it doesn't appear that we are close to doing anything because nobody wants to take a difficult or potentially risky step. So for instance, President Obama. Now you can attack President Obama for impaneling Simpson-Bowles and then not running with the Simpson-Bowles report. He said the reason he didn't do it was because there were no votes in the Congress for it. Well, there are no votes in the Congress for it until the president says, I'm for it. There are no votes in the legislature for most things until the governor says he's for it or she's for it. There's no votes in City Hall unless the mayor says he's for it. Legislators are not going to put up a vote if they think it's going to, if it's controversial, if they think it's going to be vetoed by the executive. You've got to get out and lead. So you can attack President Obama, but he did come this close to doing the big deal, the $5 trillion debt reduction deal with Boehner in the summer of '11, when Boehner checked back with his caucus and found it was untenable. They didn't have the votes, and that blew up. And the president in the last year has said he would favor two things, which are enormously controversial with his base: change CPI and raising the age limit for Medicare, both of which are like raising a red flag in front of the very progressive wing of the Democratic Party. It produces screaming and wailing. But the president said he was for them. He said he was for change CPI right before the fiscal debt resolution. Well, McConnell took change CPI off the table. He said, we can do this without change CPI. Well, the Republicans had talked about change CPI all the time. You know, we've got to reduce benefits. Well, change CPI is a fancy term that would reduce the amount of benefits, whether it's for Social Security, whether it's for Medicare, or whether for any of our programs. It would reduce it. It wouldn't rip them asunder, but it would be a reduction, and there would be some level of pain with that reduction. Well, the Republicans had talked about change CPI all the time, but McConnell went back to his caucus. And they told him, are you crazy? We don't want to be the first people to say we're going to cut benefits for elderly people. Well, the other 60% that we need to do to get this debt under control, and when I say under control, to get the debt down below 70% of our GDP, that's crucial. If we can do that, I think we're set. And most economists agree with that, and Simpson and Bowles agree with that. But to do that, we're going to have to do another 60%, probably roughly about $2 trillion. And some of that has to come from additional taxes. And there are ways to do it by closing loopholes. You can close corporate loopholes. You can close corporate loopholes, reduce the corporate tax rate and still make money. It doesn't have to be revenue neutral. You can cap deductions. If we cap deductions at $50,000, we make a lot of money. If we cap deductions at $25,000, how many Americans have more than $25,000 in deductions? What would you say? What percentage of all filers? I don't know the answer to this, but what would you say? What would you say, 3%? 2%, 3%? And then you have all the nonprofits caterwauling, saying, oh, if you do that, no one's going to give us money. Well, does anybody here think that Jerry Lenfest, when he's giving a gift, when he gave $40 million to the Museum for the American Revolution, that hopefully we're going to be breaking ground on soon, he was thinking, $40 million, that'll help my deduction? Does anybody think? The best thing I am shamefully report to you, I am now in the 1%. And the best thing I like about being in the 1%, two things. I eat out a lot more, and I love to eat. So I eat out a lot more, and that's fun. And I don't worry about it. And then secondly, I give money away. I give money away. But as much money as I give to 501c3s, I also give money to people who are my friends who are in trouble because of the recession, et cetera. It's not deductible. May not ever get it back. I do it because they need it and it makes me feel good. That's why people give money. Do you think the very richest people in this country give charitable gifts because of deductions? Gosh. So we could do that. And you cap deductions at $25,000, and it's incredible how much money that'll bring in over 10 years. But we also need to cut spending. And we've cut basically all of the money we can cut out of domestic discretionary programs. We need to cut more out of the military because we spend more on our military than all the other countries in the world spend on their military. And I will give you 2 tickets to the next 76ers World Championship game. Oh, ye of little faith. If you can get the answer to this question right. Who's numbered? We spend roughly $700 billion a year. That was what we spent during the wars. $700 billion a year. What was the second highest spender? What nation? And within $5 billion, how much do they spend? You will get 2 tickets. Take a shot. North Korea, good guess, but no. China. Yes? How much? No, China spends $70 billion. 1/10 of what we spend. 1/10 of what we spend. And by the way, who says that we have to be the world's policeman? Or if we're going to be the world's policeman, let's charge them for it. We have troops in Germany. Germany's kicking our ass economically. We have troops in Germany, and we don't get a dime for them. Remember President Bush, the first President Bush said the Kuwaitis were going to pay us for the cost of Desert Storm? Guess how much money we've gotten from the Kuwaitis? This will be an easy question to answer. Remember we were going to pay for the Iraq War by taking oil royalties? How much money do you think we've taken in oil royalties? Zero. Zero. Who says we have to do this? And who says we have to have weaponry that will allow us to blow the world up 40 times over? I'll settle for 10 times over. So that's one place. But politicians are deathly afraid to be called weak on defense. The biggest knock against Hagel, what really underlined this, is the hawks are afraid he's going to come in and cut the military budget. Well, the hawks should have listened to one of their own. Bob Gates, who began some cuts in the military budget, Bob Gates said that we could cut $80 billion a year out of the military budget and not feel it, not hamper our. That's almost $1 trillion over the 10-year period that we're all talking about. But in the end, having said all that, the mother lode is in entitlements. And not only do we have to cut entitlements because, as Willie Sutton used to say, that's where the money is, but secondly, we've got to cut entitlement spending because the trust funds are going to be out of existence if we don't. And there are 2 ways to do it. One, you can increase the money going into the trust funds, so uncapped Social Security, for example. People who earn a lot of money pay Social Security payroll taxes up to the first $110,000. but Warren Buffett doesn't pay on the next $822 million. You probably should uncap the Social Security payroll tax.